Hello and welcome to Finding Your Place in AI Ethics Consulting. My name is Shea Brown and I'm going to be your instructor. This course is in the Algorithmic Bias Lab, which is a research and education division of BABL AI. So I'm going to go over the basic outline of the course. And what you should be able to do after finishing this course is really just list the common tasks performed by an AI ethics or governance consultant. And there are a lot of different things that we do, and this view is going to be a biased view from our perspective at BABL, but we'll try to gather as much information and other perspectives as we can to provide that for you. And hopefully you should be able to list the common skills that are needed to perform these tasks. And some of these tasks are really specific to AI ethics and governance, and some are general consulting tasks, and we'll try to cover the subset of tasks that we think are important and the skills that are needed to do those. You should be able to identify which of these skills are able to be cultivated through self-study, so just learning on your own, and those that you may need to get further training, so more formal training such as courses or certificates. You should be able to develop a roadmap for yourself for acquiring this expertise. So you have a goal in mind. Hopefully by the end of this course, you'll have that goal. And then you should be able to have a roadmap for reaching that goal. And finally, you should be able to establish a strong identity and niche for yourself. And I can't emphasize enough that having a very specific niche that you fill is going to be critically important for your success. And this course is really meant for those working in the emerging field of AI governance. So what that means is we're going to be talking less about AI ethics and AI governance per se. This is more of the strategies that you can use to get yourself into that field. But of course, we will be talking about AI ethics and governance as well. And if you're just curious and you're not planning on getting into the field yourself, you're also welcome and you might be able to find value in this course. So what we'll actually be doing, this is a fairly short course. There should be 7 lectures, sort of like this one. They won't be very long, and they'll be covering just the major themes. There are going to be 3 quizzes, and these quizzes are meant to just get you to engage with the material. They're not difficult, and you can pass them quite easily. There will be 2 small research projects. And when I say small, what I mean is I'm going to expect you to do some research, to look at a case study, really try to exercise some of the skills that we are emphasizing here. And the amount that you put into it, you're going to get back. And so you can spend as little or as much time as you want. The more time you spend, the more value you're going to get from these projects. There's going to be one self-assessment. The self-assessment is really just for you to sort of identify where you are, where you'd like to be, and this course is meant to help you come up with a strategy for getting from where you are now to where you see yourself in a few years. Overall, I think this is going to take maybe 10 to 15 hours of total effort. You could probably get it done in less than this if you don't want to put a lot of effort into it. But again, as much as you put in, you're going to get out. And so I think 10 to 15 hours of effort really focusing on the projects. The videos will be easy and fast to watch, but it's the research and the projects that are going to be important and are going to really crystallize some of these skills for you. I'm going to be assessing these projects in the self-assessment myself, and so I'm going to try to give everybody feedback. If it turns out that there are a lot of people taking this course, then I might have some of the people working with me at BABL to help me review some of these, but I'll try to do most of them myself. There will be a certificate of completion for this course, just as a sort of motivator, but we do have to sort of approve your projects before we give this certificate of completion, and it's really just meant to make sure that you're actually engaging with the material and that you're really putting some effort in. But again, it should be roughly 10 to 15 hours worth of total effort. So who am I? My name is Shea Brown. I'm the CEO of BABL AI, and I also run the Algorithmic Bias Lab. And again, the Algorithmic Bias Lab is really just a research and education division of BABL. So BABL AI is a consultancy which eventually will be an algorithmic auditing firm when standards exist for that to be possible. But currently we provide consulting on responsible AI, AI governance, and more technical aspects of developing AI, such as auditing for bias and that sort of thing. I'm also an associate professor of astrophysics at the University of Iowa, and there my research really focuses on machine learning, but applied to astrophysical contexts. And I'm also a For Humanity Fellow, and For Humanity is a nonprofit which focuses on developing those standards that I was mentioning earlier don't exist, for having an even playing field for auditors, so that we have rules that we can abide by when we're auditing algorithmic systems. And by the way, if my head is in the way of any of these slides, the slides will be available separately as well. So if you can't see something, you can download the slides separately from this video. So you might ask, why do we need to govern AI? What is it about artificial intelligence that requires it to be governed? And if you're here taking this course, my guess is you already know this, but it can't hurt to reflect on it again. So AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, which is the sort of application which most people are talking about nowadays, there's a lot of promise for really bettering the world. These algorithms can do things that we couldn't have dreamed of them doing 10 years ago. And there's a lot of potential there for making people's lives better. But unfortunately, with these new capabilities that AI has, there's a lot of potential for harm to civil liberties, harm to people's rights, and reputational harm to companies that misuse this technology. And so this comes from a lack of transparency, the so-called black box aspect of AI, biased outcomes, and bias has really been a key theme in the recent years that have caused problems. And then just the overall misuse of what has become a very powerful tool. And if you look to the right, you can see just a sampling of the various news articles that have come out where AI has been misused for all of these reasons, and the problems it has caused for companies and the people who are on the receiving end of these algorithms. And so now that we sort of agree that AI should be governed in some way, how do we actually do that? What are the ways in which AI can be governed? And I'm going to focus on sort of 4 areas here. One is you can focus on best practices around development, testing, and reporting of AI systems. So within a company that is developing AI, these best practices can guide developers and the managers who work with them to do the right thing and to avoid these risks. In order to get that right, a best practice is not useful unless it's actually used. You need to have some sort of regulatory structure within these companies or organizations to enforce these best practices. So that's the governance aspect of this. You need to have some accountability. Another place where you can have an impact and help govern these systems is public pressure and advocacy. So activism is really a place where you can have a big impact. And in fact, I wouldn't be here, probably you wouldn't be here, if it weren't for the fact that this activism has taken place, where people call out bias and they really hold companies to account for the way in which AI is being used. And this is an important part of this whole ecosystem and this risk management strategy. And then finally, eventually we need to have some laws and regulations that are going to compel companies and organizations to actually adhere to these best practices. And so law and regulations they're emerging now, but it's still in its infancy. And so we're going to see in the next few years a lot more of these laws and regulations being enacted. So the whole question that this course is trying to answer is, where do you fit into this picture? And the perspective that I'm coming from and the sort of value that I will be able to bring to you is my experience as an AI ethics and governance consultant, and how we've tried to help companies do a better job when they develop their AI. But I think there's a lot to be learned if you want to get into any of these areas of AI governance. And really, this course is about finding where you fit. And that's hopefully what you'll do.